Hey guys, Andy N, spoken label, back in the house Friday evening, and it's bloody freezing. I've had to put the heating on for a bit here, which I'm going to have to turn off in a few minutes. But anyway, I've got a fantastic writer with me tonight and met this young lady over at the fantastic online spoken word night the other week, OB Hive. And I had at the end of it, 4 people messaged me on Facebook saying, you have to get this writer on. And she was brilliant. The 2 I can remember that recommended Charlotte, who's with me today, was Nick and Clive. So thanks to those you 2 straight away. And the other 2 people that recommended, I apologise, I've forgotten. So we have the wonderful Charlotte Faulconbridge with me tonight. Charlotte, now obviously I know you're from the wonderful part of the world in Warwickshire. So tell us a bit about yourself as a person. I know this is quite a new experience for you, isn't it? Poetry and spoken word.
Entirely new. I'm an autistic and chronically ill poet, and now a published author, which I wasn't up until recently, and I'm a musician as well and sound engineer. But yeah, poetry is the newest thing to me in my life. So it's all happened so suddenly. Quite overwhelming, but in the best way possible, to be
Yeah, I
honest.
think we'll probably best cover a bit of background about yourself because, like I said, you've been telling me a bit about yourself off mic, haven't you? So I was thinking we better get the heavy stuff out of the way here first because you're not. We have to. I think the best put it is there's some trigger warnings and stuff today, most definitely. But I think you're looking at it and thinking in a very positive manner, which I can relate to because my health conditions as well. So tell us about then yourself growing up. Then we'll do it that way.
Growing up, oh God.
Back when I was a lass.
Yeah, but I still am really. I'm only 24, so
Oh,
it's.
you only little baby, right?
I know I'm still growing up. I'm still growing up, Andy. Um, yeah, I mean, things started out fairly normally for what I thought at least. But it soon turned out that I was anything but ordinary, which was a slight shock to the system. As yeah, growing up, I was born completely mute, and I think when I say that, people say, "Oh, so was I," because I was a baby. But I think people, it's a distinction between. I mean, I didn't make any noise. I didn't cry. I didn't laugh. I didn't
Mm,
make any kind of babbling baby noises. And, I've been around babies and little kids since, and there's constant noise coming from them. But I was just not like that. And then, because for about 2 or 3 years, everyone just thought I was deaf because I didn't make any noise. And I really struggled to kind of tell my face what my emotions were sort of feeling. So I couldn't express much emotion, but everyone knew that I could understand them because I'd just respond in my own way, or I'd point at
mm.
things. I'd always figure out another way to communicate. And then yeah, it wasn't until I was 3 that I sort of started creating my own sign language to communicate. And that's the thing, I was never frustrated that I couldn't speak. It was never a barrier. It was, for me, talking was just unnatural, and it was like that's
Mm.
not how I want to communicate. um but of course, when you're a toddler, you have to reach certain boundaries, like with development. And the health visitor that came to visit my mum said, look, if you don't do something, she's going to get taken away, and stuff like this, because it will be construed that you're not doing your job as a parent, helping a child develop. And there wasn't any flexibility around kids that don't fit inside a certain box. It was just, you have to be this way and that's it. So yeah, I mean, my mum then tried everything, but she never really forced it because she knew that I wasn't frustrated and we could communicate, and it was just not something I needed to do. But then I went to see an osteopath, and he did something to my head that basically found out that my frontal lobes weren't properly aligned because
Mm.
I had quite a few birth complications. And
Mm.
yeah, basically my brain just wasn't connected in a way that everyone else's was. So they had to manipulate my brain sort of back together. And then as soon as they did that, it was like a switch was turned on. But I think because I had those few years of not speaking, that was just natural. So even though I could speak, I still didn't, because it was just, that was the last resort, because it's not natural, and it still isn't natural. I still use other ways of communicating with
Now, if
everyone.
people are watching the video today, you're doing something I do a lot of. You're talking with your hands a lot. And I'm
Yeah.
a bugger for that. I know, like it was. I can relate to you. Like I've got a number of health conditions myself, and like I was born partially blind, and I'm colourblind in a few other bits and pieces, and it's. I think communication with hands has always been important for me, and I can see that from talking to you today
Yeah.
as well. Now we'll come on to that in a bit because I know you use BSL obviously for your poetry sometimes as well. So, but yeah, I think that's important to talk about you today there but obviously like I have to ask you next then, what's made you go into poetry then? That's particularly at such a sudden burst, like it just happened, doesn't it?
Yeah, really, I'd love there to be this really coherent, lovely answer, but honestly, it was an accident. Completely. It was never the plan. Um, I'd never wanted to do poetry. It just, yeah, it happened by accident. I don't know if you know DK, Daniel K poetry.
Yeah, I know Daniel. He's actually on Spoken Label in a couple of weeks' time. I know Daniel really well.
Oh, amazing. I can't
Yeah.
wait for that. Yeah, we get on so well. And poetry wouldn't have happened without him for me because I was told to get in contact by a colleague with someone called Daniel K on Instagram. So I was searching for the account. And I must have spelt it wrong, or I think their name was spelled with an E and not an A. And then I found Daniel K poet, and I thought, well, it could be that person because they're really creative, but because I knew it was someone who's creative, but I thought, I'm not quite sure. I'll message them anyway and ask. So got into conversation. I said, "Are you Daniel K who does this?" And he was like, "No, but I do poetry." And because I'm so socially anxious and awkward, I thought, oh well, I can't just leave the chat and forget that I've started talking to this person. And then he said, "Oh, there's an event tonight, poetry event." And I was like, I just felt obliged to go because we'd started chatting. So I went begrudgingly, thinking, "Oh God, 2 hours of poetry. It's going to be so dry. Just why am I doing this? Like, there's nothing on telly." I thought I'll give it a go. And that night just changed my life because Clive was there, Kate, Ashley, DK. So many amazing poets were there that night that just, I didn't know poetry could be what it is today. And I think that's the thing. I'm not long out of school. So I still have the very traditional kind of views of what poetry is. But honestly, it was just life changing. And I thought, oh my God, I have to do this now. Like, this is incredible. And then suddenly I started writing poetry. So it was a complete accident, which is.
You always say with life, and it happens, things like that happen for a reason.
Absolutely.
And I think as well, pardon me, my case, I've been writing since I was 10, but I didn't take it seriously. I got to uni when I was about 30. And then, well, it took 10 years on top of that. I started taking it properly serious then, but you do. And everything you do like is an accident. And it opens one thing up to another, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think you've only been doing it, like I said, for a relative short period, but I get the impression it's turned your life upside down already.
It's just the confidence it's given me because I didn't speak to people before poetry and I couldn't do this. Someone didn't know. I couldn't even string a sentence together. So I don't know what power poetry has, but it's honestly terrifying because how have I gone from not being able to speak to suddenly
not being able to shut up, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sorry. No, I'm teasing you, ignore me.
I love that. No, it's true. And I just think it's given me just so much confidence with myself to, get everything out that I've wanted to get out. So no, it's been incredible. It's been
It's important to hear that one straight away because I think it does is like I think it lets you feel you can explain yourself to people more then. And you're going on stage or on a Zoom or something, people can get in minutes an idea of what you like as a person because you've got a legitimate story to tell, I think, half the time.
And I feel like I can say so much more in a poem than in a conversation because part of my autism is I can't express myself or process quick responses like having a conversation. Like, conversations to me are really difficult because they involve you having to think really quickly about what someone's saying to you. And my brain works like ridiculously slow. It's got a process that would belong in like an 80s computer. It's like, yeah, it is embarrassingly slow. Okay. So trying to have a conversation with someone is so difficult. But yet with a poem, I can say everything I want to say without someone like, interjecting. I just say the poem and that sort of says everything I want to. So it's a great medium for me to communicate as well.
Oh no, I agree with you. I agree with you completely because I've done a full book of being diabetic, and I want to do one about dyspraxia as well. And it's you do is I think if you when it opens that trigger up in your head, there's things you need to say. So I think I should really talk about your book because I know you've got a book out, haven't you? Called Too
Yeah,
High to Function.
device function.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to do a deep dive in the second half. People wondering today about this book with several poems in the book. Charlotte's going to graciously read for us. But I want to hear first of all, Charlotte, where did the title come from?
The title came from mainly my disdain for the labels high and low functioning. So I think people get this idea into your head, oh, if you're low functioning autistic, then you're dribbling somewhere. And if you're high functioning, you're a genius. And there's no middle ground. It's just two ends of the spectrum. And I wanted people to realize that actually not everyone who's high functioning is is a genius. We're just normal people. We're not special, and equally we're not at the other end. Like that, we're all the same. So for me, too high to function just demonstrates that. But again, also the challenge, because I think when you say you're high functioning, people don't think there's anything wrong with you. They just see the good parts. But actually, there's there's so much that offsets being high functioning that's actually really detrimental. So it was this concept of being you know, too high functioning, too highly in tune is actually really detrimental. So it's not all, sunshine and roses. It's more of an even scale than people think, is basically what I'm trying to say. It's not
Yeah,
you're not
no,
all high functioning, you're all just mixed in together.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I agree with you on that one because I do know a few people that are autistic, and I say with me being dyspraxia really because people who suffer these thought conditions, they're among the most creative people in having in the world. Really, it seems to change the way you look at things in different ways. And that's
Absolutely.
why, particularly if you've been only writing for the quick period you have, to bring a book out this quick, that's that's some going, let alone be writing the material I think you're writing, because you're writing some incredible material at the minute.
Thank you. And I think, well, my book, it's kind of a bit cheeky because my book has poetry in it, but it's not a poetry book. Um,
Hmm.
and because it's a book about my life, really, being on
Hmm.
the. And I started writing it on my 21st birthday. That's when I just got this idea, right, I need to write a book because I can't say verbally what I want to say. Like with poetry, I've discovered I can say more in a poem. So I thought people need to hear my story so that they don't have to go through what I went through, because there's no need to go through what I went through. It doesn't have to be this trial. It can
Yeah.
be something amazing. So I wanted to document my whole self-acceptance journey and all those challenges I faced and how I've overcome them, and kind of giving hope to people that it doesn't have to be this massive, monumental, life-changing negative event. It's actually an incredible thing to embrace. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the.
Brilliant. Brilliantly said indeed. So now, obviously, your book itself is out with Inclusive Creatures, I believe, isn't it? So
Creatives. But I
yeah. Now,
prefer your version, to be honest,
oh
inclusive
well.
creators.
Oh, well, it's me if you're talking bollocks as normal. So, well, tell us about then how you got involved with these people.
Well, it's something that I founded. And originally it just started as, how am I going to sell this book? Just come up with a website. But then I got the idea originally from my artist for the book. And then my editor and my graphic designer, because every person completely accidentally who's been involved in my book is autistic or is married to someone who's autistic or who has autistic kids. And it made me realize, especially my artist, because she'd never done a commission before. Um, and I went
Oh
straight in her
wow,
email. Yeah, and I was
wow.
like, look, I love your art. It's exactly what I want. How do you feel about this? And she was terrified at the start. She was like, oh my God, so many people are going to see this, which I completely understood. But I really wanted to persevere because I knew she had the ability. It was just the confidence. So what I now do with Inclusive Creators is shine a spotlight on disabled creators, so that if people want to support disabled artists, musicians, poets, then they've got a hub to go to. And it's something that I've only just started, so I'm really hoping to expand in the future. Especially with myself as well, it's really hard finding employment when you have these difficulties. So yeah, my aim was to to create the space where people could, advertise what they do, and everyone would know sort of their story, and how they could work well with them, what they wanted from the artist. So yeah, that's kind of the inspiration behind it. So it kind of grew from just somewhere to sell my book to actually this community. So
what I really liked was looking at your website before was you put up your bio, and I've got to pull you this now, okay? Because I think it really made me smile. Where you've put up in your bio on the website was you're living with 2 dogs, 4 cats, and 3 owls, and then you put on obviously about all the various bits and pieces and your health your things you've registered with. But then I love at the end of it in the bio when you put and a worsening cat addiction.
well, yeah, I mean, you laugh, Andy, but
No, I've had loads of cats. No,
it's
so
so
I know exactly what you mean. I love it the fact where you like is you're smiling at yourself at the end of it there. You're not letting life grind you down.
always. Everyone who knows me knows I'm just like the most positive person. But I think people misinterpret that and thinking that I'm just, faking being happy all the time. But I think being a positive person is being able to accept the negativity and accepting that. Because if you can't accept the bad, you can't embrace the good. So yeah, I'm not afraid to just smile at myself. And yeah.
That's what I'm like, because I've just started a brand new day job, and I don't think they quite realised what they were getting with me when they let me loose in there. Because I've had the manager tell me already, I'd on and on and on for about a month. They're saying to me, I've come in there and I've just got a smile on my face all the time. And it's like, I think that's the way you look at it, like, because I think I can relate to you in this, like, is the fact that we've both got problems, or I don't like that word problems. We've both got things that can make life awkward for us. That's a better way of putting it, I think. But we don't let it grind us down, do we? And that's the best way of looking at it, I think. So
Well put.
that's why. Now, obviously, like talking about your poetry, then really, because this is really about your poetry today. Now, obviously, we've been writing for such a short time. How have you found already that your approach to your writing is changing all the time still?
Oh my goodness, all the time compared to what I was doing on week 1 and just, how I'd go about it is completely different. And the way I see words, I think that's
Mm.
I think, I write more conceptually as opposed to literally. So I'm very good at, like, if someone was to ask me how do you feel, that's the worst question for an autistic person, because it's like, where do you start? I don't know. Like, what are these things called emotions? I really struggle with interpreting them. But I think, but yeah, I can write a poem. So I think it's just such a lovely way to explore things that I don't really know about myself as well. So that, yeah, it's completely evolved to just words on a page to actually expression on a page. I think that's how I describe my journey since June, really.
Yeah, I think I can relate that and agree with it, because certainly when I first started writing off words, I used to just throw them down the page sometimes, but pretty quickly I began to get into structure and order that sometimes isn't always what people expect. So I think that's part of the process of it, really, I suppose, isn't it? So
I think but honestly, it's just every event I go to, I get inspiration. And I think I've learned so much off everyone else. I think that's what's so great about the community. You always come away with something, whether it's a word or an idea or a new form of poetry. You always get inspiration. It's like free English lessons, because you just learn so much from other people. And that's because in the beginning, I'd write one poem every month, and I thought, oh my God, how do people write like all the time? But it's just getting that constant inspiration from people, which
yeah,
now I can't stop, and it's almost a bit annoying. I'm like, okay, my head just needs to be quiet for today. But
oh
it's
yeah.
just, yeah, it's just phenomenal the amount that you pick up from everyone else. So that's
Have you
how I've learned.
have you gone to happen? Amanda does, my wife. I know she's up right at sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning. Sometimes she is. She goes to bed say 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and she's up 2 or 3. And a poem coming into her dreams, or
Yeah.
something lying or something annoying her, waking her up.
Yeah. For me, it's when I'm in the bath or at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's the only 2 times. It's really inconvenient when I'm in the bath because I can't really write on paper with wet hands. So I have to kind of remember
Oh.
I have to remember my poems till I'm out of the bath. Then I go to my laptop and just have a massive kind of poetry dump on my laptop.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite inconvenient because you
Yeah.
can't. But yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yes, usually I have my phone in the bathroom and I'm shouting out words to the voice recorder. Yeah, if I ever get into that trick. Yeah. Oh, but you're right. I think when you go down to various nights and stuff, a good night will encourage you to try other things. I'm quite happy and proud of myself, really, me and Amanda are, that we've to some degree helped Clive Osmond look at his work in a different way as well. Because like Clive's doing like flash fiction now and short stories. And although I would never dream of doing spoof Amazon ads like reviews like he does, I don't know where he gets that from. But you do like it. So I think, as well as I as a writer, you've got to be constantly evolving anyway. So, and that's why I think you're right of it. I found it interesting. We've been talking this week. You tell me you do your music as well, don't you? As well.
Yeah, and I think because I'm naturally creative anyway, so
Mm.
I think just having another creative avenue it's just another string to my bow. It's just, oh yeah, I do this and I do this now as well, apparently. But yeah, music's been a massive part of my life. Again, all goes back to not being able to speak, because now I use poetry as my way of expressing myself to my family and my friends. Back then it was music. I find it so much easier if I could play something, in a minor key that sounded sadder, to tell my mum that I was upset than to say I'm upset. So that's again how I've communicated through the whole of my life. So I think that's why I'm so good at music, because that's been my language. So yeah, it's all stemmed from that, really. So I think creativity, I use creative pursuits as my way of communicating, because it's just easier than speaking.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that myself because, we've been talking about music over the past week, and like when I first started off the band I do by myself now. That started off basically when I was suffering from quite bad but unable to sleep at night time. I come out of a long term relationship before I met Amanda, and I was up sometimes like 4 or 5 in the mornings, couldn't sleep. So I was using a keyboard and learn how to do music, then to help me settle down.
Yeah.
Like you do sometimes, your brain operates in a different way sometimes straight away with it. So, like it was what stage are you up to with your music now then? Because I know that's quite a new process for you as well, isn't it? What you've been telling me as well.
Well, I mean, my instruments and stuff, that's been, oh my goodness. I could play the drums before I could walk.
Oh,
Because
good, yeah. Wow.
yeah, I mean, again, because it was how I communicated. It was, instead of speaking, that was how I kind of got my feelings across. So, and I remember, I think I was 12 when I got my grade 8 on my drums. But yeah, when I was 3, I started piano. I and yeah, it's just trying to pinpoint it so hard, because that's like my earliest memory is music. And then I play guitar and bass now, but I learned guitar self-taught when I was 15, because that coincided with when I got my chronic illness. Because obviously piano and drums, you need kind of all 4 of your limbs, because your piano you got your pedals, drums you got your pedals, and you obviously use your hands for them as well. But when I was 14, 15, suddenly overnight I just couldn't walk anymore. So I lost my way of communicating. I lost my lifeline. And so I thought, okay, I need something else. So I thought I'll learn guitar, because that's another instrument. I know music well. I know how to express myself with that, but I don't need legs to play guitar. So it seems like a good option. So yeah, that's how guitar started. And again, like poetry, that took over my life completely. But yeah, so yeah, instruments have always been a big part. And only recently I've gotten into the audio production, sound engineering sides of things. But yeah, that's been really interesting to learn about too. So
Yeah, we were talking about that during the week as well. 'Cause like I said, you were asking me what package do I use and stuff, and
yeah,
it's no, you kind of you did surprise me a little bit there in a good way, right? So I wasn't expecting that question off you. That's why. So
I
you
think
do.
it was never in my plan, but I think I was one of those kids who, when I was young, I had a plan for life, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to be an astrophysicist, because I'm a massive physics geek. I love physics, I love maths. I'm a total nerd. So I thought, yeah, I am. It's embarrassing.
No,
So
you're not. Listen, you get to my age, I'm the total nerd. I know that, right?
I've heard the Doctor Who episode of your podcast.
Oh,
Like,
don't start me on that because you've already seen that I've launched another new podcast with Amanda and our friend Grant this week, and the first 20 minutes of that was about David Tennant worship. Anyway, right?
so yeah, I said to myself, right, that's what you're gonna do. You love it, you're passionate about that. But of course, when life throws you a massive curveball, I found myself, I wasn't able to go to school, let alone go to uni. So overnight, wheelchair bound, I had to be home educated, do all my exams at home. So uni was just off the table. So it took a long time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do next. And I realized just go with your heart, don't go with your head, because physics was your head, but actually go with what's been with you naturally from the start, and that was creativity and music. So it's so weird retrospectively to say, but I'm so glad that something happened that made me change my life in that way, because I've never done poetry if I hadn't have continued my music journey, because then I wouldn't have met DK, and just the way things connect is just fascinating. So
Yeah, I agree. I also am a believer as well, and I'm intrigued to know your point of view on this as well, is once you master one aspect of being a creative medium, which is music in your case, I think it's a lot easier to be able to do a second thing, which like in this case is poetry. And in my case, it started off with poetry, now music as well, and also podcasting as well. It's
definitely.
I think as well, it always things break off in directions you don't expect sometimes.
I think as well, because for me, poetry is so similar to music. They've both got rhythm. You both use an instrument, which is your voice. Use expression in music. So the two, just to me, they're basically the same. So I almost see it as one art form, really. But yeah, so it's weird because in theory, poetry should have been in my life ages ago, but I just didn't think it could be what it is today. So
Yeah, no, I get you completely with it. Could you see yourself merging your words with music in the future, maybe?
oh, definitely, and I've already started doing work with DK on his poems, doing that.
Oh,
Because I didn't know that was a thing until the poetry community, and I started meeting poets like DK who did poems to music. So yeah, absolutely, I'd be well up for that. Totally.
cool. We'll talk about that off mic then, right? Could be a collaboration on the way then, definitely. And then so, so no, brilliant. Now, I want to do, like I said before, we're going to do a deep dive on 4 of your poems from your book anyway in the second half. But I'll wrap up this point with a couple of my standard questions anyway. So, do you have any sort of ideas where you want your creativity to take you next?
I do. I think what I've learned from mainly poetry so far is that I really want to create more opportunities for people like myself who really struggle performing, because I can perform ish, but it takes so much
After
out of me.
watching you, can I interrupt you 1 second? After watching you at OB Hard, get rid of the word ish, right? Turn that for me, right?
I think, it's so weird again because speaking just isn't natural to me at all. But I just think my journey would have been so much easier if there were lots more avenues to go down where I wouldn't have to perform to get my work out there. So yeah, I really hope to create more within Inclusive Creatives, an anthology specifically designed for those to submit to who struggle performing, who can get their work out there if they want to share it without the anxiety of having to perform it. Because so many people have a voice but just can't express it in the way that everyone else can. So it's creating these opportunities for those who struggle. And obviously more books on the way, because I thought this would be the only book, but no, poetry apparently now. That's that's
Yeah.
gonna happen. So
Next
yeah.
Christmas, I reckon there'll be a 300-page book coming out for you for your second book, definitely.
Oh, no, already got plans. Already got plans.
Brilliant. We'll get you back on here again when that comes out, then I promise you. Now, obviously, to conclude part one, seriously, if you want people to, first of all, get hold of the book, where do you recommend they go?
I recommend they go to inclusivecreatives.co.uk just because it's cheaper than Amazon. So I'm doing you a little favour there. Amazon will be more expensive. Waterstone's more expensive. So just go direct. Or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Charlotte Faulconbridge, and direct message me. And that's another way to get in touch and get a hold of things.
That's good to me, then definitely. So, right, everybody, I've really enjoyed part one. we will enjoy part 2 because, like I said to you before, this young lady left a few people stunned at OB Hive the other week. So
Pressure.
not pressure. It's not pressure. It's only me, right? So see you all in 2 minutes.